Hello Titans, this is Mr. Nash. I wanted to come before you and talk a little bit about the reopening plan and some of the contingency models as they exist today, as well as try and address some of the concerns that I gathered from your questions. Know that if you submitted a question, we will work our best to get you an answer to your questions through your email, as well as we will post all of our questions on our frequently asked questions page, which is soon to be added to the website. I do want to, for a moment, take a quick pause, a mindful moment, if you will, to really reflect on the enormity of what we are engaged in. We are, in fact, re-examining the educational model as it exists today and trying to find the best way to serve students under the current conditions within our country. I tell you that simply because our site reopening plan is actually closely nestled into the district's site reopening plan. So the district site reopening plan is meant to help demonstrate the safety measures that will be taken to keep both staff and students safe in this time, as well as be able and ready to function in an in-person model when that becomes available to us. So the reopening plan that was shared with you the other day is really the reopening plan if all students can return to school at the same time, and those conditions are felt to be safe both by the county as well as by the school district. As soon as we have reached that threshold, then all the conditions that are in that site plan for Poway High School become real and they become active. The safety measures and the health concerns of our students are in the forefront of our thinking constantly. We do not wish to put students at risk, nor do we want to ask staff to put themselves in harm's way. We hope to have created a situation that clearly identifies what it would look like for families if we were to return. If you are choosing an in-person option, that option is chosen around the idea that someday you will meet the opening plan that we presented to you most recently. Understanding that that's not our current reality and that there's need for us to reflect on the idea that if the governor has deemed that we should be closed due to the county's concern rate, then we are not likely to jump directly into full students returning as we come back. Nor do we know for certain at this juncture whether we will have to begin in a virtual reality, meaning learning with a virtual academy as well as an in-person model. We want to make sure that we have all of those options up and available and ready. Now, they're being developed, and so I've been using the analogy of we've invited you into our kitchen, and so I remind you that while you're in the kitchen with the cook, that we want your opinion and we want you to see how the dish comes together in the end, but that means that you are getting to see the recipe as it is being put together. It means that you're going to see our thinking as it happens, and sometimes things will shift from where we thought they were yesterday to what they need to be tomorrow. And so in that, we ask that you afford us the grace that's necessary to develop these things as we move forward. I do want to talk a little bit about the health and safety concerns overall before we go too far into the conversation between VLA and in-person. And the questions that I got that I feel like are pretty standard answers are our HVAC has had a filter upgrade, so it does meet the requirements by the county and the state. Masks for all will be required. They were required for staff, they're required for students. Obviously, we know there are medical conditions and situations that raise exception for any situation, and we will handle each of those individually as we always have. Additionally, I think it's important to remind everybody that the governor has set the 5% guidelines for when positive cases or if positive cases should show up at a school. What is the process for determining how to shut down a school and how it affects the larger scale of the district in the end, holding those things accountable. Many of the questions I receive from you are around what will happen to my child during that time, how will we continue to offer education and build their learning during a time when they are forced to be in quarantine, and those are plans that we are currently developing. We certainly understand that we will continue to provide them educational opportunities, and we know that we will need to shift rather rapidly in those moments. So we are developing those plans now, and they will be shared with you in our next opportunity to meet. Additionally, we developed a contingency plan, or a contingency schedule, if you will. This affords students the option to attend in person, even if the state has restricted the number of students who are in the classroom. I've been charged with developing a plan and identifying the need of that plan to the superintendent so that those plans can be met as much as physically responsible. I do want to reiterate to you that everything that we are sharing with you today and everything we will develop between now and when we begin is in flux, and it will continue to be in flux as uncertainty settles around the COVID-19 situation. I remind you two things. One, there are some things that were asked in the questions that we wouldn't have today even if we weren't in this unique situation. We have not finished or finalized the development of a master schedule, and now with the addition of a virtual academy as well as an in-person school, we will certainly be working very hard to put that together as quickly as we can, but know that that takes time. It also takes information, and the information that we don't have at the moment, and why I can't share with you what that plan is today, is families are currently deciding whether they will be virtual or in person, as well as staff are indicating whether they can be in person and virtual. Absent that data, it's difficult to provide to you what the curriculum would be, or what courses might be offered in which situation. So what I would share with you is, our intent is to offer the most robust program physically possible in the situation with the limitations we have. Does it mean that there will be sacrifice? Likely. There will be things that we cannot do the same way that we have done before, and we will need to be creative in how we develop them. And I say we because this partnership between home and school can't be a one-time engagement in this time frame, nor can it be as dismissive as it may have been when we were in the spring. We must remain engaged with one another in order to ensure the learning of our children take place. I know there's a lot of concern around the process or the pieces that fit into that virtual model, and how do we hold students accountable, and how is this different than when we were in the spring. And I promise you all those details are coming. Remember that it's only been a week since the governor has made the strong determination to shut schools down, and so we want to make sure that we have a full and well-developed plan before we roll it out. But it is well into development, and we are sharing it with others to identify any weakness that it might have, so that when it comes to you, it is absent those weaknesses. The VLA model will certainly work on a trimester system here at Poway High School, so all students will have the same bell schedule, all students will have the same grading system, all students will have the same evaluation time frame. This also means that students traversing in and out of the VLA and the in-person model becomes a little bit easier to do. However, we are holding fast to the idea that unless absolutely necessary, a student won't be moved in within a trimester. We would like them to finish the coursework in the model that they began it in. We understand there are emergencies and situations that will make that not possible, and we will address those as they come through. Again, remembering that we're a partner in this educational process, and that we really want to help you develop the learning of your child as we go through this school year with the restrictions we have. Additionally, in person, the contingency model is really developed with the idea that we would reduce the number of students who are on campus to begin with. I know that the model that was sent to you is different than the announcements that came out from the district following, and that's that evolution of planning that I was talking about earlier. As we develop these plans and as we move forward, we really start to see where we can maximize the effort or increase the instructional opportunity for students, as well as maintain and establish the safety. And the current thinking is around an A-B model, which means that students would attend class on 2 days a week, alternating by half of the school being here at one time and half being at the other, with 1 day in that week being an all virtual day for all students. This will be a time for teachers and students to get online and caught up in the material that they need to in order to be engaged. Additionally, that schedule still needs to be passed through staff as well as through community to ensure that it doesn't have any flaws in our thought process prior to cementing it into our schedule. Additionally, it could potentially have additional costs, and those things need to be shared with the superintendent prior to those being released. So as soon as we have finalized that process with that schedule, we will have another forum much the same as this with a little bit more interaction that allows folks to be able to ask those detailed questions. Remembering that your individual child's question is probably best answered by your counselor, but if it's a global question, such as how are students getting to and from, or what does lunch look like, those questions I think are more appropriately answered for the whole group. Lastly, I really want to remind everybody that health and safety here is essential. Everybody will be adhering to the restrictions that the county has set for us, and the guidelines are in fact the rule for us, and we will continue to follow them to keep folks safe as we move forward. I know this is a troubling time. I know these are difficult decisions. I have 2 children of my own, and I am faced with similar decisions. Many of you have asked me to be honest in your emails about what I would do with my child, and I wish to be clear. What I do with my child, the same as what you do with your child, is incredibly personal. It is a place where you have to root in who your child is, what they are capable of doing, and how well they will be able to exist in the environment that you're getting there, as well as any health or safety concerns that are connected to them. So while I will share with you, my expectation is both my 9 and my 13-year-old will attend school when school opens. That's because the conditions in our household and the conditions in their lives allow us to make that decision. These decisions are for you to make as a family, and we want to support you in every way that we possibly can, understanding that this is a unique time and unique situations require unique solutions. My promise to you is that we will continue to work together to solve these situations and create an environment that involves education that's valuable to students, to staff, and to our community. We pledge to be dedicated, again, to all that is necessary to find the success for your child. As far as the virtual learning piece and the expectations for teachers, those will be clearly articulated and clearly identified, and I do give you my promise that we will be better organized around how we communicate with families than we have been in the past. We will certainly clearly identify for you how you can keep in contact and where you can reach your child, as well as what things are expected of your child on a daily basis, so that we're not playing the surprise we have homework or surprise assignments are missing. I value your input. This is not easy for you, nor is it easy for us. But if we work together, if we continue to stay connected as a community, we can do this. We can do this well, and we can serve our children well. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to our next meeting.